Chapter 20. Goodbye to Adra. When Penny returned to the hotel to tell Adra the wonderful news, she met Phil and Jimmy just as they, too, were returning from their dinner. Phil took one look at her and said, "What's happened? You're just bursting at the seams with excitement, and you seem in an awful rush. Where are Marjorie and Adra? Is everything all right?" Penny grabbed them both by the hands and practically dragged them to a secluded corner of the hotel lobby, much to the amusement of some of the people around. She carefully looked around to see that no one was near enough to hear her and proceeded to tell them the story about accidentally finding Adra's father. Phil and Jimmy couldn't get a word in edgewise while she talked, and when Penny's story was finished, they both whistled. "You lucky stiff," said Jim. "You get all the excitement while we look for it. Gosh, isn't it wonderful? The mystery of Adra is solved. Whoopee!" "Contain yourself, young man," cautioned Phil. "The people in the lobby will think we're all crazy. Let's go up and tell Adra right away." But just as they were waiting for an elevator to take them up, Pat Ryan and Mr. Prentice arrived, and Penny introduced the boys. Mr. Prentice warmly wrung their hands. "Bless you all. I never thought I'd see my daughter again. I am indebted to the Allens and the Ryans for the rest of my life, but it's a most welcome debt. If I don't see Adra soon, I won't be able to stand the strain." Penny told him she had not been up to see Adra yet, and so they all went up together. Mr. Prentice and Pat waited in the hall while Penny and the boys knocked on the door of the girls' room. Adra jumped when Penny spoke. "It's just me, girls. May I come in?" Marjorie hastened to unlock the door to find Penny with the two boys. "We haven't thought of going to bed yet. Everything okay?" "Very much so," Penny answered, stepping inside and looking at Adra with a broad smile on her face. "No villain in sight?" her sister asked lightly. "It does not make much difference now if there is," returned Penny, still smiling as she crossed the room rapidly to where Adra had perched on the edge of a bed. "Listen, Adra, do you think you can stand some awfully swell news, or are you going to faint again? Remember how Phil had to carry the green lady upstairs, and she was as weak as Anne Mary's dish rag?" Philip had taken Adra's hand, and Adra, alert at Penny's first words, sprang to her feet. "Of course I can stand good news. What is it? Do you know who I am? And are they coming for me?" "I certainly do know who you are, and you are being come for." Philip's arm went around Adra as naturally as he had caught her on the night they first discovered her. "Sure you'll not collapse and be silly?" "Sure. Tell me quickly, please." "I will. You are Adra Prentice, and your home is near Philadelphia, that nice country place you were pretty sure about, and your father knows all about you. He just found out. Get it?" "I get it, Phil. And he's here after me? Oh, Phil!" Adra did turn and put her head against Phil's shoulder, but she was just trying to keep back the tears. The awful fear was taken away forever. Then she mopped her eyes and went into Penny's arms as Philip passed her over. Marjorie was standing speechless and delighted. "Isn't it wonderful?" Adra asked chokingly. "And I don't even have to know him? You are sure?" "Sure," answered Penny. "Pat and I have been talking to him. May we bring Mr. Prentice in, Adra?" "Then he's really here. Now." "Yes, only waiting not to startle you with his coming by finding you unprepared to see him." Philip was already on his way to get her father. Marjorie, Penny, and Jimmy looked at each other. Should they stay or slip out to let Adra meet her father alone? "Stay right here with me," said Adra, thinking of the same thing. "It will be like heaven to see father, but I want you all in it, too." "All right, Adra. We are so happy for you, though we're going to miss you." Quick steps in the hall, and Philip was ushering in Adra's father. He was without hat or topcoat, a slight, distinguished-looking man. Graying hair, clean-cut features, brown eyes like Adra's. These, with the air of poise and a certain assurance, had first impressed themselves upon the observant Penny. That was what the father Adra expected would be like. She and Marjorie stood aside while Mr. Prentice walked straight to Adra with an encouraging smile, as one might meet and reassure a doubtful child. He took both her hands, stretched toward him, held them firmly a moment while they looked at each other. "Know me, Polly?" Marjorie's eyes opened at this. Adra had been smiling from the first moment Mr. Prentice had entered. Philip, watching her, said to himself that she recognized her father. But the Polly seemed to do something more. "Oh, Daddy! That nice nickname once more!" Phil turned away, and Penny, Marjorie, and Jimmy went out into the hall, closing the door. But they did not go far. Philip, looking out of the window, heard an occasional little sob as Adra tried to tell her father something, but the voice of Mr. Prentice, while not very firm, was soothing. In a few minutes he was telling Adra his plans. "Now, dear, we shall put off all that. You and I have a great deal to say to each other, but it can all be told presently. The first thing is to get you home. I've a new car, Adra, that you will like. We shall start at once, and shall have someone with us to protect us. If I'm with you, I'll not worry. It is hard to believe I'm not in a dream. How is Nell? And where's Jim?" "Everybody is fine, and I will tell you all about them after we start. But where are the girls?" Mr. Prentice looked around, and Philip, hearing, came from his retreat by the window. "They stepped out, sir," Philip answered, "to give you a few moments with Adra. I had to stay on guard." Philip smiled at Adra, who came to him and grasped his hand with both of hers. "Oh, Phil, I can't thank you all enough." She started to say more and could not. "Don't try it. We're going to see you again in New York. Shall I call the girls and see where the car is, Mr. Prentice?" "Yes, please." For the next few minutes, Mr. Prentice was concerned with talking with them. He was very nice, Penny thought, perfectly capable of handling this matter. "Your brother has promised that we shall see you in New York and at our home," he said. "It will be easier there to gather up all the threads. Adra will be rested, and I shall want to be very well acquainted indeed with the young people who saved my daughter for me." Then the girls fussed about Adra for a few minutes. There was no packing to do, and the few things on the cruiser that were hers could wait till they brought them, Adra said. "I have my diary along, Penny, you know." She had her hat and coat on now, having ripped the curls out of the hat with Penny's help. Mr. Prentice looked so amazed at them that they had to explain, but he suggested that it might be better to retain them. "Better leave the hotel looking as you entered, Adra," said he. So Penny pinned in the waving light brown locks and adjusted the hat once more on Adra's head, kissing her as she finished. "Goodbye, Grace Rogers," she said. "I'm afraid I'll never meet you again. And to tell the truth, I like Adra Prentice better than I do you." End of chapter 20.